Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're playing the defense again. I've been having some good times with this ship, mainly down to the guns being so impressive. This ship is very expensive though, unfortunately. It's part of the Kitakami Salvage event. It's half the cost of Kitakami, but that certainly doesn't make it cheap. It's still the cost of a few Ohios if you are just using research points. So make sure you have a lot of these ships that are available for resources, coal, steel, research points, before you go for a ship like this one. I think while this ship is quite good and fun to play, it's still not worth getting over multiple other ships of resources. So whether that be coal, steel, or research points. In Ohio, Slava, Colbert, for example. Like, get those three first before you get a defense, for example. Unfortunately, this ship won't be available for quite some time after this salvage event. The kind of FOMO event here is very real, unfortunately. But this ship is pretty interesting since you have very large guns for a cruiser, 356mm guns, and they have a pretty good reload with improved pen angles on the armor piercing, much like a Des Moines, and British HE. So the firepower is amazing. The problem with the defense, though, is, well, that it has no defense. The ship is very squishy. It has a gigantic citadel. It gets overmatched almost everywhere, and you gotta try and survive. This ship really takes a lot of focus fire, I think, just because people know it's a pretty squishy ship, easy to get good damage on it. So having the daring smokes is quite helpful, as well as a hydro allowing us to dodge a lot of torpedoes. And the bow torps can be pretty impactful, especially if you're able to play on islands, dealing with choke points, that kind of thing. Our smoke fire is around 11.2 kilometers, so the smokes are actually quite useful. Even though you have these giant battleship caliber guns, at least mid-tier caliber for battleships, your smoke fire is still that of a heavy cruiser, so you actually are still able to use a lot of these smokes. I played very aggressively early on in this game and lost half of my HP, as I probably should. It maybe even should have died, depending on who was shooting at me here. There's some pretty dangerous targets in this game. Vermont, for example. Pretty scary for this ship. A lot of overmatch and a lot of dev strike power there. So defense is really a lot about positioning yourself to make use of these incredibly powerful guns. And I really like playing it really aggressively. As you guys know, I enjoy this game a lot more when I get to play closer to enemy ships. So kiting to the back of the map here, it's okay. We could just pop smokes in spawn and just farm these guys. It gives us our own version of island cover wherever we need it. So it is workable on open water maps, but I just enjoy playing it a little bit more when I get to play closer up. And you still use those smokes to disengage, as we will in this game. But already using two of our heals this early on hasn't been the best of starts. The other thing you should know about defense is the turret angles. I actually can fire all of my turrets here at just a ridiculous angle. It's like 22 degrees or something like that. You can stay very well angled even while getting all of these guns off. And it's a 6-gun Battlecruiser. Typically those two things make me hate a ship. The reason I don't hate this thing, and I actually enjoy it quite a lot, is that dispersion you get. It is normal cruiser dispersion, not any battle cruiser dispersion. So the damage output is quite consistent here. We also have pretty insane reload as well on this ship, given the guns. A lot of times these battle cruisers get upwards of 20-second reloads, where this ship gets closer to 16 seconds, something like that. And then adding some buffs like Adrenaline Rush, getting top grade gunner, and outnumbered. These things help us with dispersion as well as reload. So playing up close like this using islands can give us a lot of buffs that are very, very nice. In this situation, we're going to be using our hydro to spot for our teammate, playing with a friend of mine who also is in the defense, and we're going to have to try and lock down this flank. It's going to be a little tricky. Our team has control of the other side of the map though, which means that the enemy team is going to be very, very strong here. So pushing out and trying to make use of these guns is going to be a little bit difficult. Radar at the moment, and there's a Vermont on the other side, there's a Yamato on the other side here, so we got to be very, very careful. But our bow torps can give us some decent opportunities here to stall out the enemy team, but also just get some good damage in if they do decide to push here. So there's the Buffalo down. Our spotting is helping, I think. Although I guess the Kremlin was probably also spotting that. Unlike a Kremlin, we can't just go out and bow tank here. I would love to help him out a little bit more, but looks like he's actually going to go down here relatively quickly. The shell velocity is a bit of an issue on these guns, but in a situation like this, it's actually a good thing. It allows us to actually fire over these islands just barely and still be able to get some damage in on some of these targets at longer ranges. If we had better shell velocity, it'd be a lot easier to aim these guns at range, but we wouldn't actually be able to use them here. You're going to see in this game just how squishy this ship can be. So you can do the trick of poking your nose out around islands, and that allows you to get all your guns firing without actually being spotted. But plane spotting is a bit of an issue. Hopefully that will be addressed in the future. If you're watching this a year from now, you'll have to let me know. But for now, all we have is hope that announced changes for CV spotting and focus damage will actually come to the game. And for now, though, we are going to have to deal with that carrier spotting. But hey, we got smoke screens. These daring smokes allow us to go dark here and still get some decent damage in, trying to deal with this Conqueror here. But really, I'm mainly hoping for the enemy team to push along the 1, 2, 3 lines around the islands. You'll notice just that we can't do much here. I think we're doing a decent job of stalling them out, but it's just important we don't overcommit our teammates on the other side of the map here. There we go, finally getting our first kill. Bit of a slow start to this game, and his blind fire actually gets us, which is kind of shocking. But Dispersion said that one of those shells was going to come hit us and got a fire, but that's all right. Important to know, though, that defense actually doesn't accelerate all that quickly or stop all that quickly. You don't have the baked-in British acceleration, so we are taking propulsion mod here. And stopping is a bit of an issue as well. It tends to glide a lot like British ships, so it's very important you're keeping an eye on how you're positioned, just because this ship can die so quickly. We'll get some decent hits into the Napoli here. Nothing too amazing. This island's just blocking us out from actually dealing damage to him. But there you go. Vermont is looking for us. I knew it. The whole time I was sitting here, I was thinking, man, this Vermont, this Yamato, they have to be just looking for me, right? And sure enough, every once in a while, you get that reminder that you're right on the edge of death if you would push out just a little bit more. But they are finally deciding to push up along the 1, 2, 3 lines, as I had hoped. So we're going to back up here, try and use this island to prevent us from being detected, and farm these guys. So not only is the AP good, but the HE is amazing here. With our reload and accuracy, we're landing a lot of shells quite often, and they have an extremely high fire chance. They pen just ridiculous amounts of armor. I think it's like 80 mil or something like that. Maybe 67, 80... somewhere in there. I know it's a lot. It's more than enough to pen a bomber, more than enough to pen a Yamato here. And that's important because that full pen damage into the hull of a ship is often going to saturate way later than superstructure. Superstructures saturate pretty quick, and then you start doing way lower percentage damage for every shell hit that you get. Here, though, we can aim almost anywhere on the ship outside of the Citadel, and the HE is going to do really nice damage. And of course, light fires. We want fires here if we are using our special commanders of Cunningham. We are looking for a Witherer to give us even better reload. As it stands, we're like at a 14-second reload, something like that. But we do get plane spotted, right? Plane spotted, and we're a little bit too far forward. So what happens? Yamato punishes us with a Citadel. And even though that is a little bit frustrating, I actually really like it. I really like that this ship is squishy, but it has extremely powerful guns. It's something that I wish happened more often in this game. I wish we would see ships that have absolutely powerful strikes that are fun to use, but when they get caught out, when they're in a bad position, when they make a mistake, they also get punished pretty hard as well. That's what I like to see. I think the game is just more interesting, more engaging that way. So when I make that mistake there, and that Yamato barely catches a glimpse of me, that one salvo that he gets that one opportunity in like 5-10 minutes of me sitting on this island, he actually gets a Citadel. And it's possible we actually get dev struck there, to be honest with you, depending on how his dispersion goes. So it's a tricky balance. If you make it too punishing for people, then if you're a beginner player or something like that, not that this ship is for beginners, it's insanely expensive, but you know, it's a little bit hard to play the game then at that point. But I still think it would be good for the game overall to get people to learn how to play the game in a way that yeah, you do get one shot every once in a while. You do, if you make mistakes, get punished. And that way it's very clear that you made a mistake and you can know what to do the next time. At least that's kind of my thought on it. Maybe I'm just looking at it as someone who's played the game a long time and know very clearly when I am playing well and when I am making a mistake. Maybe I'm a little bit the wrong person to ask about balance for new players. That could be entirely true. There we go. There's our Wither getting our reload in here. Very nice to see. 11-second reload on a defense. 11-second reload on 356 mil guns. With cruiser accuracy, with Des Moines AP pen angles. That's pretty impressive. The carrier is looking for us here, but notice how we can just use this smoke really quickly to go dark, and he doesn't quite get the accurate drop that he was looking for, so we do actually manage to dodge. Notice we're already up to 200k damage in this game. It feels like it's been a while of me just kind of sitting here almost doing nothing this game, and yet in the salvos that we have managed to land, they've been pretty impactful. They do really, really nice damage. So if you are in a game where you are allowed to farm a little bit more, the damage racks up rather quickly. Now, we're about to die, actually. I've been talking about the propulsion here, making mistakes, all that stuff is a bit of a setup for the end of this game. We're about to die, so that final little push there I did just to get those last two torps off, that little acceleration I made, yeah, that's actually what killed me there. Because we can't back up in time. The planes spot us. We wouldn't actually be spotted by this Vermont, but the planes spot us, and he's just able to get the salvo around, and our Citadel it's big, so he doesn't manage to take us out. So a small mistake like that does get punished, which is good. I think it's good. The plane spotting is annoying, but the actual damage coming in when I do make that mistake of pushing forward a little too far, a little greedily to get those torpedoes off, and I did hit them, to be fair, but a little greedy on those torps did end in my death. But we did manage to win this game. A very close match. Got up to 232,000 damage there. Feels pretty nice. And defense it's a fun ship to play, man. You're kind of always on the edge of your seat just because of how squishy it is, but the damage output feels very, very good. HE, AP, they both just work. As for the build here on the defense, we are going pretty aggressive with this thing just because there's really no getting around the size of this Citadel on this ship. It's pretty difficult to deal with. As you can see here, the bow, overmatchable, upper belt, overmatchable by 457s, which is pretty common. The deck is gonna bounce shells though, so that's nice. A lot of HE will pin 40 though, but that's a big Citadel. It's not as big as the camo would maybe lead you to believe, but it's still pretty big. It's way above water. It's not very well protected, so you will take some very massive hits to this thing if you're broadside, or if you're caught bow in. If you're angling well, getting these guns, if people aim for just the front, notice that Vermont and that Yamato, I think both hit us in the front, they just got damaged. They just got Citadels. So very difficult ship to play when it comes to the defensive capabilities of this ship, even though it's called defense, which I think is hilarious. But the firepower is really, really good. I'm actually giving up concealment because our concealment is so good already. 11-3 is fine for a ship like this. So I'm actually wanting to go outnumbered and to upgrade here. We're also going to be taking Adrenaline Rush, of course. Superintendent to give us extra healing. An extra smoke is nice. Extra hydro is nice, but not necessarily. It's really about the healing. And survivability expert as well for that extra HP. Went through all that HP actually in that game. Consumables enhancements giving us a longer duration hydro and allowing our smoke to last a little longer when it's puffing out, because this ship doesn't stop very well. So nice to see that that gives us a little bit extra time. Gun feeder is almost mandatory on this ship, I would say, just because both shell types are so good. So you're going to be wanting to switch between them quite often, and grease the gears just to let those turrets turn a little bit quicker. They're not that fast. Even with grease the gears, they're 36 seconds. But base reload of 15.8 seconds. Then you add top grade, you add a little adrenaline rush. Yeah, that's where that 11 seconds can come from. Outnumbered, of course, going to give us even better dispersion. So a very, very powerful ship with this kind of firepower. But yeah, you're going to die very quickly as well, which is cool. I think that makes it fun. Although something to keep in mind is just that this ship is worth 2 or 3 Ohio's worth of research points. So it is very, very expensive. The upgrade's pretty standard stuff outside of maybe damage control system. It does eat longer duration fires as well, but even with propulsion mod, we're pretty slow to accelerate and change direction, which we do want to be doing if we're playing on islands, using smokes, that kind of thing. Very expensive ship, not as expensive as Kitakami, but it is a good ship though too. I think it's quite strong and pretty fun to play as well. You get in those right situations and it does some insane damage. But you make a mistake, you will die, which is cool. It adds a little bit of variety to the game. It's not just the sit at the back and HE spam kiting away angled type of ship like we've seen in a lot of other ships that are in this game already. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.